going to learn how to create a one-point perspective anamorphic illusion. So to get started, we want to create a new canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and just use the default Photoshop size. Because we may be printing these out, make sure the resolution is at 300 pixels per inch. But the one difference that you want to make sure that you do is put this in portrait mode instead of landscape direction, because it's going to be a lot easier for you this way. So I'm going to go ahead and title this Perspective Whole, and then we'll be ready to go. You can go ahead and just leave the background white. We may change this later on, but for just setting it up, we don't want a transparent background. We will want it to be white. So just go ahead and press Create. And now we are ready to begin. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up a series of ellipses on here. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and start a new layer. And I am going to go to the shape tool. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click the ellipse tool, which looks like an oval. So now we should have our settings set to what you want. Remember, we do not want to fill with this, so we have the white line with the red X. That means there is no fill. If there would be a fill, it's going to create a solid shape, which we do not want. So this is telling us what color, so stroke means what color the outline is going to be. You can choose whatever color you want for this. I'm just going to pick black right now so you guys can see it. Now for this, what this is saying, the 10 pixels here, that's how wide your shape is going to be. So I want the line of the shape is going to be. So what I would recommend is have this anywhere from 5 to 10 pixels. It's going to make it much easier to see. I'm going to leave mine at 10 just because I think it makes it a little bit easier. Okay. So I am on my ellipse tool, and one thing that I'm going to do before we get started is I'm going to come up here to View, and I'm going to make sure that my snap lines are on. Okay, those are going to be our pink little smart guides that we see later on. You probably already have those set. I'm going to make sure that my rulers are showing, so we can see that here, just in case you might need those. I'm also going to make sure that the grid, so you go to Show, I'm going to make sure that the grid is placed on. Make sure that your smart guides are put on too. And we have the grid here, and now we can see that there is a grid here, which is just going to help us even everything out a little bit. Okay, so we are going to get started, and I am going to start by just dragging this ellipse oval shape. Don't worry about the size, we can change it. So as I do that, you can see we have a pretty nice line. So I'm going to move this towards the center a little bit, and I'm going to play with that shape just a little bit to kind of make it a little bit more oval. And I'm using those guidelines, the grid, to actually make sure, showing that it's even all the way around, which it is right now. So now we are going to continue making a series of these ovals. And so I'm not redrawing from scratch every time. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate these layers. But what we're going to do, as the ovals get smaller, they're going to form more of a circle. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. We don't need to worry about labeling these right now. We'll take care of that when it's all finished. So now I'm going to drag this down so I can see it a little bit, and I'm going to do Command T. And I'm going to make this one kind of centered inside. It's going to still be pretty oval shaped, but it's going to be a little bit closer to the bottom than it is to the top. So it's not going to be completely even. And this one you might not be able to tell so much. So we have this pink smart guide telling me that it's in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that for now. Press Enter. And now I'm just going to continue this process, and I'm going to speed it up so you guys can get to work here sooner. And I'm just going to continue duplicating this layer, and as I get closer to the center, it is going to be, it's going to turn more into a circle. Okay, so now that I'm ready for my last layer here, I am going to duplicate that, and this time, this one is going to be almost as circular as it can be. So notice these have gotten smaller as I've gone, and these have gotten bigger. For this last one, you want it to be touching the line above it. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit more circular. And you guys can perfect these shapes a little bit more as you continue. Okay, so right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rings. So kind of depending on what you're doing. And I'm actually going to move that one up just a tidbit so it's a little bit closer. Okay. So now we are ready to go to our next step. So first what I'm going to do, I'm going to merge all these layers together. And before I do that, you need to make sure that you convert it to a smart object. Otherwise, we'll lose all those details. Then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to rasterize the layer. Okay. And you can just keep this as like ellipse. You can get rid of all this junk behind here. And now we are ready to go to the cool part. So I am going to make sure that this is centered. If it's not, you can resize it if you want to, just by Command T the entire thing and transforming it. But mine's centered right now and even, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this where it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new layer, and I'm going to put in a horizon line. So let's label that horizon line, and I'm going to use a different color. So I'm going to just use a magenta, pink, fuchsia for this. I'm going to go to the brush tool, and I'm going to choose a line, okay? So my line where I want the horizon line to go is I want it to be right here in the middle of this last circle that I have made. So I'm going to start on this line just by clicking once, shift, oops, wrong button. Let me try that again. I had my caps lock on instead. So what you're going to do, click once. Do I have the right line? Yes. Okay. Click once, hold down shift, and just go over here, and you'll get a perfectly straight line. Okay. Then let's go ahead and make another layer, and I'm going to label this vanishing point. And I'm going to choose my vanishing point by where this is intersecting here on the grid. So I'm going to change this to this bright blue color. And as I zoom in, do you see where these are intersecting right here? That is where I'm going to put my vanishing point. Okay? So now we are set up and ready for the next part.